Hello and welcome. Tonight, we'll gently explore why the stars above seem to sparkle and dance in the night sky. Rest easy, relax your thoughts, and let the quiet science of the universe guide you into calm. If you step outside on a quiet night, away from the restless glow of the city, and lift your gaze upward, you will see them. Tiny fires scattered across the dome of darkness, pulsing like distant heartbeats. Some shimmer faintly, others gleam with steady brilliance, but most of all, they twinkle. It is a simple thing, and yet one of the most enchanting sights in all of nature. The twinkling of stars is at once ordinary and mysterious, a part of every child's first encounter with the night sky, and a wonder that has inspired poets, dreamers, and astronomers for millennia. We see it, but rarely do we ask, why do they do this? Why do stars quiver like candle flames in the breeze? Why do they look alive, shifting, almost playful, as if the universe were dancing above us? The truth is gentle, quiet, and far more beautiful than you might expect. For the stars themselves are steady, unwavering, constant in their radiance. The trembling is born here, at the edge of our own world. And so tonight, let us drift together into the mystery of twinkling stars, a story of light, of air, and of the restless breath of earth that makes the heavens shimmer before our eyes. Every star you see is a sun, burning with unimaginable intensity, pouring out rivers of light into the vast silence of space. That light leaves its home in a single, steady stream, unwavering and pure. It then travels across gulfs so immense that our minds can hardly hold them. Some of the twinkles you see tonight began their journey hundreds of years ago, others thousands. A few began traveling long before the first human drew breath, or the first tree rooted itself in ancient soil. And through all that time, through all that emptiness, nothing interferes. The cosmos, though filled with galaxies, dust, and clouds of gas, is still so wide that a single beam of starlight can move, unbent, undisturbed, for millions of years. By the time it reaches the outer edge of Earth, this light has carried with it a history as old as time itself. It has been patient, it has been steady, it has not wavered. And yet, as it arrives here, so close to our waiting eyes, it encounters something unexpected. A thin, delicate veil, our atmosphere.
The air that surrounds us is not still. It moves, swirls, trembles with invisible waves of temperature and pressure. Warm air rises, cool air falls. Winds sweep silently across the night sky, stirring the atmosphere into currents and eddies. When starlight passes through this restless ocean of air, it bends. A little here, a little there. This bending, known as refraction, scatters the light, sending it to us along ever-shifting paths. What was once a single, steady ray now wavers, arriving at our eyes in flickers and tremors. This is why the stars seem to twinkle. It is not the stars themselves that change, but the Earth's breath, moving, flowing, shimmering like the surface of water. From the ground, it feels as though the heavens themselves are alive. But in truth, it is our own sky, a transparent sea that makes the stars dance. Planets, larger and closer, do not tremble in the same way. Their light spreads over a wider patch of sky, smoothing out the ripples of the air. But stars? Stars are so distant, so fine that even the slightest shiver of the atmosphere makes them flicker. And so the night above us sparkles, a gift from the breathing sky, painting the cosmos with a living, shimmering glow. Imagine you are standing beside a quiet lake at dawn. The water is still, a mirror reflecting the trees, the sky, the first blush of morning light. If you toss a pebble into that water, the reflection shatters into ripples, bending and shifting the image before your eyes. Now lift that thought upward and picture the sky not as empty space, but as an invisible ocean draped over the earth. It is made of layers, rising, falling, always moving, like the restless surface of water in the wind. When starlight enters this ocean of air, it meets the same fate as the reflection in the lake. The image quivers, ripples, dances, because the medium it passes through is never still. A pocket of warmer air here, a drifting current there. Each tiny disturbance bends the light in its own way. To our eyes, this becomes a shimmer. The star that was steady for millions of years suddenly trembles, as though it were alive with breath. Astronomers often call this atmospheric turbulence, but the words feel too heavy, too mechanical. I like to think of it instead as the Earth's sky-ocean breathing. Each inhale, each exhale, imperceptible yet constant, reshapes the light of the stars.
And so, when you look up and see that glittering sparkle, you are really watching the movements of an unseen ocean that stretches above your head. Vast, delicate, and endlessly alive. If you've ever gazed at the night sky long enough, you may have noticed something curious. While stars shimmer and flicker, the planets often glow with a steadier, calmer light. Venus shines like a brilliant jewel. Jupiter and Mars burn steadily, their light firm, almost reassuring in the darkness. Why is this so? The answer lies in distance. Stars, though mighty and immense, are unimaginably far away. To us, they appear not as disks or shapes, but as single infinitesimal points of light. This makes them fragile in our view, so that the faintest ripple in the atmosphere can shift their path, bending them this way and that. Planets, however, are our neighbors. Though far in human terms, they are close in cosmic ones. Their light reaches us not as a tiny pinprick, but as a minuscule disk, still small, but wide enough to cover more than a single trembling point. When the air above us stirs, the distortions of light are averaged across this broader surface. The shimmer smooths out, the flicker quiets. The result is a light that glows steadily, almost serenely. Where stars dance, planets hold their ground. Where stars seem fragile, planets seem solid. To ancient sky watchers, this difference was one of the first clues that planets were unlike the fixed stars. The word planet itself comes from a Greek root meaning wanderer. They were recognized as special, unique, moving steadily through the heavens, glowing with a strange stillness that set them apart. And so, each night, the sky divides itself for us. A twinkling ocean of stars, and the calm, glowing lamps of planets, shining with a different kind of magic. Long before science explained refraction and turbulence, people looked to the heavens and wondered. To them, the twinkling of stars was not physics, it was poetry, myth, and mystery. Some believed the stars were living beings, their flickering a sign of breath, as though each one were alive and watching. Others thought the twinkling was communication, signals from the gods or messages written across the heavens for those wise enough to read them. In many traditions, the stars were thought to be candles lit by ancestors, their flames flickering as they watched over the world. In desert cultures, where the night sky seemed infinite and close, twinkling was often seen as the stars dancing, celebrating life in the vast darkness. The Greeks, ever curious, tied the stars to their stories of heroes and gods. To them, the shimmering heavens were the stage upon which myths were written. A star that glittered brightly might be a hero's soul, burning proudly. One that flickered faintly could be a warning or a spirit fading into the night. Even now, there is something about twinkling that feels alive. We know the science, and yet when we stand beneath a sky littered with sparks of trembling light, we feel it. The same wonder, the same mystery.
It is not just the stars we are seeing, it is thousands of years of human awe layered over the science, shimmering together in the night. And perhaps in that shimmer, there is something of truth. For the stars may not be speaking in words, but in their twinkling, they do remind us that the universe is never still. It is alive, in motion, restless, breathing, just as we are. Light is a patient traveler. It moves in straight lines across the emptiness of space, never wavering. But here, at the edge of our atmosphere, its path is no longer simple. For air, though invisible, has structure. Imagine layers of glass stacked upon one another, each one slightly different, slightly tilted, slightly imperfect. When light passes through, it bends, sometimes gently, sometimes sharply, changing direction with each shift. This bending is what physicists call refraction. Our atmosphere acts in much the same way. It is made of countless shifting layers of air, each with a slightly different temperature, a slightly different density. Warm air is thinner, cool air is thicker. Winds push these pockets of air across the sky like drifting sheets of invisible glass. As starlight plunges through these layers, it bends again and again. One instant it shifts upward, the next downward. The path is never fixed, never the same twice. By the time the light reaches your eyes, it has been nudged and wavered, pulled in a dozen subtle directions. The result is the illusion of motion. The star seems to tremble, to flicker, to change its brightness. But it is only the path of light that is changing, not the star itself. In truth, stars burn steadily, with a constancy that could put even our sun to shame. Yet, in the restless breathing of our atmosphere, their light is reshaped. And so every twinkle you see is the visible fingerprint of refraction, a dance written by air, performed upon ancient light. Refraction makes the world shimmer in other ways, too. You see it when a straw bends inside a glass of water, or when heat rises from a summer road, rippling the horizon. But in the night sky, refraction writes its most poetic masterpiece. The stars flicker not because they change, but because Earth's breath bends their light into a living sparkle. Every twinkle you see is not just a trick of the air, it is also a kind of story. When the atmosphere bends starlight, it is revealing its own hidden movements. Each shimmer carries the mark of temperature, the trace of pressure, the signature of a wind sweeping far above. The stars are not only lights in the heavens, they are mirrors, reflecting the restless state of our own sky.
Think of it this way. Every flicker is a pulse of Earth's breath, translated into light. If the air above is calm, the stars shine more steadily. If the air is turbulent, stirred by heat and wind, the stars dance wildly, as though they are alive with energy. This is why mountaintops and deserts often reveal the clearest, sharpest stars. Their air is thinner, drier, calmer. The atmosphere there is less troubled, less restless. The stars twinkle less, their steady fires revealed more clearly. Astronomers travel to such places for this reason, to let the stars speak without too much interruption from the breathing of the earth. And so, as you look upward on an ordinary night, you are not just seeing distant suns, you are watching your own planet move, sigh, and breathe. It is humbling, isn't it? To realize that something so small and local, the shifting of air above our heads, can ripple across the ancient light of stars millions of years old. We are reminded that we live at the boundary of two worlds, the infinite silence of space and the delicate, restless veil of atmosphere that keeps us alive. The stars are steady. The earth is restless. Together, they create twinkling, a cosmic duet, a harmony of light and breath. For dreamers, twinkling is a kind of magic. For astronomers, it is a problem to be solved. The flickering makes stars beautiful to the eye, but it blurs their details in the telescope.
A star's light, smeared by turbulence, cannot be studied clearly. Its planets, its structure, its secrets remain hidden beneath the shimmer. And so, for centuries, astronomers longed for stillness. They climbed mountains, seeking calmer skies. They built observatories in deserts where the air flows gently and dry. They even launched telescopes into space, far beyond the reach of Earth's atmosphere, so that starlight could arrive untouched, steady as it was meant to be. But some remained determined to tame the twinkle here, beneath the sky itself. They invented a method called adaptive optics, a way of correcting the atmosphere's blur in real time. Here's how it works. A telescope shines a laser into the night sky, creating an artificial star, a guide point. Sensors then measure how this star twinkles, how its light is distorted by the air. A mirror inside the telescope, flexible and responsive, shifts and reshapes itself thousands of times per second, undoing the distortions of the atmosphere. The result is astonishing. Stars that once flickered into blur are sharpened into clarity. Galaxies emerge in fine detail. Planets orbiting distant suns can be seen, where once they were hidden.
In this way, astronomers have learned to quiet the twinkle, not to erase its beauty, but to peel back the veil of our atmosphere and glimpse the universe as it truly is. And yet, even with this mastery, there remains something sacred about the natural twinkle of stars. To strip it away entirely would be to lose something human, something poetic. For though astronomers seek precision, the rest of us seek wonder. And the twinkling sky, restless, shimmering, alive, is perhaps the most human way of seeing the stars. If you've ever lingered under a dark sky, you may have noticed something curious. Sometimes, as a star twinkles, its light seems to shift in color. White becoming red, then blue, then green, then back to white again. A flickering rainbow, painted in tiny bursts of brilliance. Why does this happen? The secret lies in the nature of light itself. Starlight is not one simple color, but a spectrum, a blend of many hues woven together, like threads in a tapestry. Each color bends at a slightly different angle when it passes through air. This is why prisms split sunlight into rainbows, and why raindrops scatter sunlight into arcs across the sky. When the atmosphere bends starlight, it sometimes separates these hues. For a heartbeat, one color may be scattered away, leaving the star tinged with another. A gust of warmer air, a ripple of cooler air, each distorts the light differently, shifting the colors in a rapid dance. Your eyes, ever sensitive to change, pick up these fleeting shifts. What results is a star that not only twinkles but shimmers in colors, as if it were a gem refracting the hidden rainbow within. Some stars are naturally red, like Betelgeuse, or blue like Rigel, but when twinkling takes hold, their colors grow restless, dancing like candlelight reflected through stained glass. It is the atmosphere's artistry, painting the cosmos in fleeting hues, reminding us that light is never still and never simple. Have you noticed how stars near the horizon seem to flicker more violently than those high overhead? The difference is striking. Stars close to the ground shimmer wildly, while those near the zenith shine with a steadier calm. The reason, once again, is hidden in the journey of light. A star high above your head shines through a shorter path of atmosphere. Its light passes through fewer layers of shifting air, fewer ripples, fewer waves. But a star near the horizon must send its light through a much longer path. It grazes the Earth's atmosphere at a shallow angle, passing through thick veils of air, across more turbulence, through more shifting temperatures and winds. Each layer bends the light differently, scattering and shifting it in countless ways. The result is a twinkle that is stronger, sharper, more restless. A star at the horizon may even appear to flash red and green, its colors split and scattered so intensely that the eye cannot settle on one. This is why at times stars on the horizon seem almost unreal, trembling jewels, flashing with color, alive in their instability.
They remind us that we live beneath a sky that is not uniform, but layered, deep, alive with motion. And so, when you watch a star climb the horizon, know that its restless sparkle is not the star itself, but the long, winding journey its light has taken, a path through the thickest parts of the breathing sky.
Our eyes are not passive windows. They are living instruments full of quirks and sensitivities. When they meet the flickering light of a star, they sometimes add their own illusions to the dance. The retina, with its delicate web of rods and cones, responds differently to brightness and color. Rods, more sensitive to faint light, capture the dim shimmer of stars, but they do not see color. Cones, less sensitive to dimness, catch the fleeting hues when the star is bright enough. Together, they weave a picture that is not always steady, sometimes exaggerating the flicker, sometimes softening it. The brain, too, plays its part. It is wired to notice change, to pay attention to things that shift quickly. A steady light may fade into the background, but a trembling one calls attention. This is why stars seem to flicker more vividly than they might if we could measure them with instruments. In truth, twinkling is both a physical phenomenon and a psychological one. The atmosphere bends the light. The eye and brain interpret the result. Together, they create the impression of a night sky alive with motion, alive with change. Perhaps this is why the twinkling sky feels so magical. It is not only the universe above us that dances, it is our own perception, our own living vision meeting that light halfway. The shimmer of stars is both out there and in here, within the quiet theater of our minds. For thousands of years, before maps and compasses, before satellites and GPS, humans looked upward to find their way. The stars were more than ornaments in the sky. They were guides, steady companions to sailors, travelers, and dreamers. But how does one trust a light that shimmers, flickers, and shifts? To the ancient navigator, the twinkle was not confusion, it was familiarity. Each star, despite its trembling, rose and set with predictability. Each followed a path across the sky, tied to the slow wheel of Earth's rotation. On calm nights at sea, when waves were restless and horizons were uncertain, the stars became the sailor's compass. By watching the steady glow of Polaris, the North Star, navigators in the northern hemisphere could hold their course. Its faint twinkle did not diminish its constancy. In fact, its unchanging position in the sky made it more trustworthy than any earthly landmark. Other stars, too, became markers. The twinkling belt of Orion, the steady fires of the Pleiades, the guiding arc of the Big Dipper. Each cluster carried with it a sense of direction, a memory written across the heavens. Even the twinkle itself played a role. Sailors learned to distinguish planets from stars by the steadiness of their glow. Planets, less restless in their shimmer, revealed themselves as wanderers. Stars, sparkling points, reminded sailors that they were watching suns far beyond imagination. To travel by starlight was to place trust in a trembling guide, fragile in appearance, but eternal in its truth. And perhaps that is the deeper lesson, that even in their shimmer, stars remain faithful. They flicker, they dance, but they do not abandon their paths. And so, across centuries and oceans, the twinkling sky carried humanity safely forward, a trembling map, drawn not on paper, but across the silence of night. Every culture that ever gazed upward found meaning in the flicker of the stars. Twinkling was too enchanting, too mysterious to ignore, and so it became a canvas for imagination, a mirror for human longing. In the deserts of Arabia, where night stretched endlessly and the sky seemed close enough to touch, the stars were seen as lamps hung above the earth, their flickering flames lit by the divine. Travelers crossing dunes read their twinkle as signs of presence, that the heavens themselves were watching, guiding.
In Greece, philosophers speculated whether the stars themselves were living beings. Plato imagined them as divine souls, flickering with life. The twinkle was their way of breathing, of revealing their spirit across the vastness. And in the far north, the Sami people looked at the trembling sky and saw the dance of spirits. To them, the flickering lights, stars and auroras alike, were the movements of ancestors, crossing the dark winter sky to remind the living of their presence. Even today, children everywhere grow up with lullabies about stars that twinkle. The most famous of these, sung across languages and generations, has made twinkle itself the essence of starlight in our imagination. Science may explain twinkling as refraction and turbulence, but for the human heart, it remains something more. It is story, memory, and myth, a shimmer of meaning that binds us all beneath one sky. There is something deeply human about falling asleep beneath twinkling stars. Long before we built ceilings over our beds, we lay beneath the night sky. The last thing our ancestors saw before sleep was the trembling canopy of starlight. It is no wonder then that dreams and stars became intertwined. The twinkling above us seeped into the twinkling within us. Stories passed down in every culture tell of dreams sent by the stars, messages whispered through their flickering glow. Psychologists today might explain this as projection, the human mind weaving meaning into randomness, but perhaps it is more poetic than that. For when the brain drifts towards sleep, it too twinkles. Thoughts shimmer and flicker, bright one moment, gone the next, replaced by colors and visions that dance before fading.
Dreams are the stars of the inner sky. They sparkle unpredictably, shaped by unseen winds of memory and emotion. And just as no two twinkles are alike, no two dreams are ever the same. There is comfort in this parallel. To gaze at a star and watch it shimmer is to be reminded of our own inner night, fragile, flickering, alive with change. We are not separate from the cosmos. We mirror it. The universe twinkles above, and we twinkle within. And so, perhaps, the reason humans have always loved twinkling stars is because they resemble the landscape of our own minds. They remind us that we, too, are restless fires, trembling in the wind of time. When you fall asleep tonight, if you dream, think of the stars. They will be twinkling above you as your own thoughts twinkle inside you. Two skies, outer and inner, both alive with flicker and glow. Imagine for a moment that every star is a storyteller, whispering to us from across the cosmos. Their voices do not arrive as sound, but as light. And this light, older than civilizations, travels tirelessly, through dust, through darkness, through the emptiness that stretches for unimaginable miles before reaching the small, watchful circle of your eye. When that light enters Earth's atmosphere, the story changes. It bends, it scatters, it dances as though the sky itself were scribbling notes in the margin of the universe. The twinkle you see is not just a shimmer, it is the atmosphere translating the star's ancient language into a flicker, a pulse, a living rhythm. Think of it like listening to music through a radio in a storm. The melody is still there, beautiful and intact, but it wavers, skips, and hums in unpredictable ways. Twinkling is the sky's static, reminding us that our planet is alive, breathing, shifting, constantly reweaving the fabric of light. Each flicker becomes part of the message. Perhaps the stars are not frustrated by this distortion. Perhaps they intended it, as though to say, even the purest truth needs a little trembling to be felt by the heart. Have you ever noticed how stars can trigger memory? How one look at a night sky can suddenly recall summers long ago when you lay in the grass as a child, staring up until your eyes blurred and you thought the stars might fall into your hands? That is the peculiar power of twinkling. It carries not only the science of light, but also the poetry of memory. A steady, unblinking point of light is majestic, but a flicker feels alive. It reminds us of candle flames, of fireflies, of hearth fires warming a quiet room. Flicker feels close to home.
In this way, stars do not simply sit in the sky as distant suns. They weave themselves into our inner world. Their quivering light becomes part of our stories, our nostalgia, our private archives of wonder. We remember them not as cold astronomical facts, but as companions to our quiet nights, as background characters in the theater of our dreams. Twinkling makes stars imperfect, and imperfection makes them human to us. When you recall a night from long ago, it is never the perfect silence of the stars you remember. It is the trembling shimmer, the living breath of the sky that imprints itself onto your soul. There is a strange and quiet music in the way we look at stars. Science tells us that the shimmer is caused by moving air, bending beams of light. But the human heart hears something else, a symphony. Each flicker feels like a note. Together, millions of twinkling stars become chords, melodies, and rhythms that are never written down, but always playing. We become listeners in a grand cosmic concert, one that requires no instruments but light, air, and time. The ancients must have heard this music too. When they named constellations, when they invented myths, they were not only mapping the stars, they were listening to their twinkling voices and writing them into human song. Even today, in our age of telescopes and satellites, we remained enchanted by the sky's performance. We still gather on rooftops, in open fields, or by windows at night, and we look up. We may understand the science, but knowledge does not silence wonder. Instead, it deepens it. Because now we know the stars are steady. It is our Earth that makes them shimmer. Which means, in a way, twinkling is not just their music. It is ours too. The atmosphere, the fragile breath of our world, plays with starlight like fingers brushing the strings of a cosmic harp. And so, when you look up tonight and see a flickering star, you are not only seeing the universe, you are hearing Earth's quiet song. A song that has been sung since the first gaze tilted upward. A song that says, we belong to the stars, but we also belong here, where the sky trembles and sings above us. When we gaze at the stars, it may seem like the twinkling is something fragile, fleeting, or unstable, but the cosmos itself does not flicker. Out beyond our sky, the stars burn with a steady brilliance, patient and unwavering. Their glow is a river of energy, flowing across time itself, untouched by the winds of Earth. It is only our atmosphere that bends their light, scattering it into dances of brightness and color. In this way, the universe and Earth join in a collaboration. The stars send their light as truth, and our air turns that truth into a song. The twinkling is not a weakness of the stars, but a reminder that every act of observation is shaped by where we stand. The patient eye of the cosmos sees no flicker. It is our human eyes, bathed in air and weather, that turn eternal light into poetry. And perhaps that is a gift, for we do not just see the stars, we see the living breath of our world written upon them. There is a curious kinship between us and the stars. Just as their light trembles when passing through the currents of air, so too do our thoughts shimmer when passing through the atmosphere of the mind. A memory may begin as something clear, sharp, unwavering, but when it filters through emotion, through time, through longing, it flickers, growing brighter, dimmer, even changing color in the glow of our imagination. The stars twinkle because they journey through turbulence. So do we. Perhaps this is why people for centuries have looked to the sky and felt comfort. The twinkling above is not chaos, but resonance,
a reminder that beauty lies in imperfection, that truth can be refracted without being broken. The stars become our mirror. They whisper, "You too may flicker, but you will always shine." When the world grows still, when the hum of the day has softened into silence, the night sky opens like a cathedral of calm. The stars twinkle gently, each one like a candle set far away, yet somehow meant for you. They give no orders, no noise, no urgency. They simply exist, shimmering with patient light. Their quiet gift is perspective. They remind us of vastness, that beyond our small anxieties lies a cosmos steady and ancient. And so the twinkling of stars is more than science. It is a lullaby woven from air and fire, turbulence and time. To watch them is to remember that stillness can be found even in motion, and that beauty often comes not from constancy, but from change. As you close your eyes tonight, perhaps you'll carry that gift with you, the memory of a sky that sparkled not just with distant suns, but with the gentle breath of Earth itself. Have you ever noticed how the stars above seem to shimmer with a kind of drowsy rhythm, as though the sky itself were breathing in its sleep? It makes one wonder, do stars ever rest? And if so, what does sleep mean for a thing made of fire and light? Stars, in their quiet way, do have lifetimes. They are not eternal torches, but living flames, each one carrying a story written in hydrogen, helium, and time. To look up at them is to see billions of lullabies being sung at once, some still at their brightest, some fading, some long gone, but their voices still traveling to us across the dark.
Imagine a star in its youth. It is like a restless child burning fiercely, expanding and contracting, learning to balance the push of its fiery heart with the pull of its own gravity. This phase, though long by human standards, is but the first act of its journey. It is a kind of waking dream, full of energy, full of fire. But as eons pass, stars slow down. Their cores change. Hydrogen, their first food, begins to run low. In this way, a star begins to feel the fatigue of existence, not in hours, not in days, but in spans so long that human history feels like a single blink. Still, to the universe, this change is gentle, like a great sigh before sleep. Perhaps you've had this thought before. What happens when a star dies? It feels like such a final word, doesn't it? Death? But in truth, the universe does not deal in endings the way we think. For a star, death is not silence, it is transformation. Some stars collapse into white dwarfs, tiny embers cooling slowly, their light dwindling across unimaginable centuries. Others go out more dramatically, with an explosion that scatters their elements across the galaxy, seeding new worlds, new skies, and perhaps, someday, new eyes to look back up in wonder. And the most massive of all, they fold into themselves, becoming black holes, places where time and light fall into deep, endless slumber. It is a sleep so profound that no morning ever follows. And yet even here, there is no waste. The black hole becomes a kind of cosmic cradle, reshaping space, whispering gravity into the very structure of the universe. You might ask yourself, as you listen, why does this matter to me? And here is the soft secret. The atoms in your body, the calcium in your bones, the iron in your blood, the oxygen in your breath were born from such stellar endings. The stars do not vanish, they return in pieces, in whispers, in us. When a star sleeps, its dream continues in every living thing. So the next time you lie under the night sky, perhaps drifting off to sleep, imagine this. You are not simply looking at distant suns. You are looking at family. You are looking at the past and the future all at once. You are, in a way, looking at yourself. The sleep of stars is not a silence. It is a rhythm, a return, a cycle without end. And perhaps as you listen to these words, your own breath has slowed to match it. In, out, in, out. As steady as the quiet pulse of the universe. Because in truth, there is no final darkness, only transformation. The stars rest, but their light remains, and so do we. So, what then do the stars leave behind when they sleep? What traces, what memories linger in the dust they scatter across space? When you close your eyes at night, you are not simply slipping into sleep. You are stepping into a vast, hidden ocean, one that flows quietly beneath the surface of waking life. Dreaming is not just a flicker of imagination, not just a scattering of thoughts stitched together. It is something older, something woven into the very fabric of the cosmos itself. For just as the stars breathe in cycles of birth and death, just as galaxies spiral in graceful patterns that take billions of years to unfold, your mind, too, carries a rhythm, a tide, a gentle pulse that rises and falls with each breath, each dream, each wandering of thought. Think of how the night sky looks when you gaze upward. Stars shimmering, twinkling, each one a flicker of light, each one carrying stories that traveled across unimaginable distances. Now think of how your mind feels when you drift into dreams. Images flickering, shifting, glimmering like stars scattered across an inner sky. Some dreams are bright and vivid like a comet streaking across the heavens. Others are faint, delicate, almost forgotten before you even open your eyes.
Is it not curious how alike they seem? The sky above you, infinite and vast, and the sky within you, infinite in its own secret way. In dreams, you sometimes fly, unbound by weight. You walk through landscapes that could never exist in the waking world, rivers of color, cities made of glass, voices that speak in symbols instead of words. And yet, these dreams feel familiar. They feel like they come from somewhere deep, somewhere that remembers things older than your own life. Scientists tell us that dreams are the work of memory, imagination, and the quiet night labor of the brain, stitching together fragments of experience into strange new shapes. But the poets, the mystics, the storytellers, they whisper something different. They say that to dream is to touch the same creative fire that once forged the stars. That when you dream, you are not inventing, you are remembering. Remembering that you are made of stardust. Remembering that your mind, just like the universe, is restless, curious, endlessly weaving. Notice, too, how dreams never sit still. They ripple, they transform, they dissolve into one another, much like galaxies drifting through time. One image turns to another, just as one star burns out and another is born. And when you wake, the dream fades into memory, the way the night sky fades into dawn. Some dreams carry messages. Some carry echoes. Some seem like they belong not to you, but to something greater, as if the universe itself has found a way to speak through the quiet language of sleep. Perhaps the link between cosmos and mind is not a mystery at all. Perhaps it is simple and soft and everywhere. The universe dreams through you. Every thought, every vision, every wandering of your imagination, it is stardust, remembering itself, playing in patterns of possibility. So the next time you drift into sleep, let it be with this thought. As the stars twinkle in the night, you are twinkling too, within. As galaxies spiral in slow, eternal dances, your mind is spiraling too, weaving stories of its own. And in this quiet mirroring, you are not separate from the universe. You are its reflection. You are its dream. And when you wake again, when morning light finds you, you carry with you the faint shimmer of that truth, that the dreams you dreamed are not gone. They are part of the same great story, still unfolding, still breathing, still becoming.
Light, traveling across unimaginable distances, carries with it the quiet signatures of stars. Each twinkle you see in the night sky is not just a moment of beauty, it is a fragment of a conversation spoken across space and time. A star's photons, born in the searing furnace of its core, take thousands, sometimes millions of years to reach its surface before beginning their long pilgrimage through the cosmos. By the time this light arrives in your eyes, it has brushed against dust, danced through waves of gas, and been bent by gravity itself. Yet still, it endures. A single photon might have begun its journey long before the first human looked up at the sky, and when you witness its shimmer tonight, you are completing that journey, becoming the final listener to its story. Some ancient cultures believed that the stars themselves were storytellers, their twinkling a kind of coded language, flickers of guidance, blessings, or warnings. Today we might call it science, interference, scattering, refraction. But the poetry remains untouched. For when you gaze upward, you are not merely seeing points of light, you are witnessing a chorus of voices, layered across centuries, whispering softly through the darkness. Each flicker is not random, it is alive with meaning. And as you breathe, as your own heart beats in quiet rhythm, you join that cosmic dialogue, your awareness weaving itself into the great conversation of light. When we think of memory, we often imagine something fixed, like a photograph, frozen in time. Yet memory is not still. It is alive, fluid, reshaping itself each time we return to it. Much like the night sky, where the stars appear unchanging to the naked eye, but are in fact drifting slowly across the heavens, our memories shift and wander, carried by the quiet gravity of time. A childhood moment you once remembered vividly, the scent of rain on a hot street, the laughter of a friend, the taste of something sweet, changes each time you recall it. The edges blur, the colors soften, and sometimes new details emerge that were never truly there. This is not failure of the mind. It is the natural rhythm of memory itself. Neuroscientists call this reconsolidation, the process where every recollection is not a retrieval, but a rewriting. When you remember, you do not pull a file from a drawer, you paint the scene anew, brushstroke by brushstroke, guided by fragments of the past and the emotions you carry in the present. And so, memory is less like a photograph and more like a constellation. A few bright stars remain, unchanging anchors of truth, but the lines we draw between them, the patterns we create, shift over the years. One day you may see a hunter in the sky. Years later, a bird. The stars are the same, but the story has changed.
Perhaps this is why we can sit with an old memory and find comfort in it, even when the sharpness has faded. The mind reshapes the story to meet us where we are, softening what would wound us, illuminating what would guide us, and weaving the past into a pattern that feels bearable, even beautiful. Like the stars, our memories twinkle because they are alive, dancing between light and shadow, presence and loss. And so we come to the end of our quiet wandering tonight. We've traced the paths of starlight,
listened to the slow rhythm of memory, and felt how time itself moves gently, like breath. Wherever you are listening, whether it's evening, midnight, or the tender hours before dawn, know this: the universe carries you as softly as it carries every star. You are part of this endless rhythm, woven into its quiet pulse. If your eyes grow heavy now, let them close. Let the stories of stars, of memory, of dreams settle inside you. There is nothing you must do, no weight to carry, no destination to reach. Only rest. Sleep deeply, and may your dreams drift like constellations across a calm sky. Good night.